Hello, everyone, and welcome to our daily discussion of news today. Today, we are going to talk about the news items of November 18th. The key events of the day, we are going to be discussing them in detail from the specific point of view of the UPSC exam. So, let's first take a look at the headlines. So, the main news today are the Prime Minister urges 10-year national pledge to shed colonial mindset rooted in Macaulay's legacy. So, we're going to go into our history where Britishers were involved, where Macaulay was involved. We'll discuss that. Then the Supreme Court warns Telangana Speaker for delay in MLA disqualification under the 10th schedule. So, if you've been following the news, this event in Telangana, the issue of defection has been an ongoing thing. Then you have the National Mission for Clean Ganga. This approves research products to strengthen scientific river management. So we're going to use scientific inputs in managing our rivers. This is specific to the river Ganga. Then 10 years of the last India-Africa Forum Summit. So this is about a large gap which has come in this India-Africa Forum Summit. Then you have Supreme Court issued directions for tiger reserve protection. So tiger is a very important animal for India, and we have tiger reserves. So there are new guidelines for its protection. We'll talk about that. Coming to some of the quick updates, the shorter news which we have. So first one is on liquefied petroleum gas. I'm sure everybody has heard about LPG. Then we're going to talk about leopards. Then you have the UN Cyber Crime Treaty. Then precision biotherapeutics. This is a term which we'll try and understand. Then the 16th Finance Commission. So this has submitted its report. So we are going to talk about that. Then you have Ajaya Warrior. This is a military exercise. Then Earth Systems Science Council, a new body created by the government. Then Sentinel 6B, initial public offering, and leadership group for industry transition. Led IT. So let's talk about the first news item. So this first one is about the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is talking about shedding the colonial mindset. What's happening here is that the Prime Minister in its latest speech has pointed out that there are Macaulay's minutes on education which were given in 1835. So there was this new education policy which had come up. It's called the Macaulay's Minute. And under this, there was an emphasis of teaching English. And this was promoting English education as opposed to whatever existing languages were there in India, like you had Sanskrit, Hindi, Arabic, Persian, many other languages which were being used in different areas. So after Macaulay's Minutes, the education system changed in the sense that it was understood that we must learn English, and this kind of changed the whole scenario. There was a kind of supremacy associated with learning English and a kind of inferiority which developed over a period of time for doing anything which was local, which was vernacular. Now, this mindset is what the Prime Minister is talking about, that it has been ingrained since 1835, and this needs to change. Another thing further on this is that we have, of course, received independence. We are not colonial anymore, but there are still elements which would suggest that we have that colonial idea, that colonial mindset behind the whole operation of the country, because a lot of our systems were laid down by Britishers. So let's see how this is happening. So these are a few points which point out towards the colonial mindset in India. The first is use of English language. So it is in our courts, we are using English. In our universities, the mode of education is English. This kind of leaves out a lot of people who are not able to speak or use English. Then you have the culture aspect. So the kind of dress we wear, the food, the art forms, the music, all of this also is seen to have a very strong Western influence. And again, I want to emphasize the problem is if you're not involved in that, or if you're doing something which is like maybe, dressing up or in food habits or etiquettes of eating, if they are Indian, then that is considered to be inferior. That mindset still exists. Then you also have legal structure, laws, and institutions. So you have the Indian Penal Code, which is there. Now, this Indian Penal Code, then you have forest laws, then you have sedition laws. So these laws, the base of these laws is the law which Britishers had set. Now, the issue which you have to understand is, which Britishers were a colonial power. Their motive of setting up laws were not as a service to improve the country for benefit of the citizens. Their laws were for controlling citizens, for making sure they are obedient, so making sure everything which is happening is serving British interest. If you don't change those laws, we cannot come into that welfare model of governance which we talk about, or that developmental idea, or laws as a way of service. So that is a big gap. Then you have the economic system. Economic system was also placed in a way that it would benefit the Britishers. So they had started industrial revolution, they were setting up industries, they were producing manufactured goods, and they wanted India to be in a position that it should not have its own manufacturing, it should be buying everything from Britishers because that was to British business interest. Now this is still there. This idea of imported economic models where you import things, we don't produce a lot of things, that is still there. And that idea of, getting private capital, that has lingered on from that timeline. Then your knowledge system. See, we had indigenous knowledge systems which were there, but because there was no promotion of these, because there was no further research on this, these systems have been forgotten. They have a lot of, ancient knowledge, ancient wealth of ideas, but we haven't been able to work on them because all the research, development, promotion, government agenda was coming from the government, which had nothing to do with this system. So if we are still in that sense of working development, then this would mean that there is this indigenous knowledge which has been forgotten. Then cognitive decolonization. So this is a very interesting idea. See, we are independent, we're not a colony anymore, but in mindset, in our cognitive sense, we have not been able to completely shed that colonial mindset. The government has started taking steps on this, and that is what will be cognitive decolonization. So you have promoting Indian languages in the national education policy. So you have this new education policy which is talking about, early learning in your mother tongue, in your own languages. So that's one change. Then you are also trying to reform the different laws. So the sedition laws, the Indian Penal Code laws, all of them we are trying to reform one by one. There's emphasis on them. Then renaming Rajpath. So a lot of structures, I'm sure you know, they are being renamed. So Rajpath means, Raj means the person who's the ruler, that is his path. Now the name of that, which was a colonial term, has been changed to Kartavya Path. Kartavya means more as a sense of duty. Not rule, but duty. The whole mindset of service. These names, all these slight things also showcase, how change is going to happen. Then cultural revival. So in this, we have different aspects which the government is promoting, like the government really made a lot of effort in promoting yoga such that we have actually declared an international yoga day for the whole world to follow it. So that's a very big achievement. Then behavioral shift. So focus on Atmanirbhar Bharat. So this concept that manufacturing has to be done in India. We are not going to be an import economy. We're going to try and make everything here on our own and sustain our own development, which is the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat. We'll move on to our next article for discussion. Now, this is Supreme Court warns Telangana Speaker for delay in MLA disqualification under the 10th schedule. So what's happening in Telangana is that there are a group of MLAs, so you have 10 MLAs who have left their party, who've joined the ruling party, who've joined the government, and the deciding factor on whether they should be disqualified or not is the speaker. But the speaker is not giving a decision. Let's talk about the 10th schedule first. So we have a specific set of rules which are in place for deciding what defection would be, who will be charged under it, what are the provisions, and there is a dedicated 10th schedule for the same. So this was introduced by the 52nd Amendment in 1985. It lays out grounds and procedures for disqualifying legislators. So what are the criterias? You need to know who all or what under what provisions can defection happen. So first is when any member voluntarily gives up its membership. Like you took a BJP seat, you got elected, and then after that you say, no, now I'm not a part of BJP. That is a ground for defection. Then vote against the party directives. So see, political parties, they are usually going to issue a whip. They are going to suggest that on this issue, this is the party stand. And all party members have to vote on that same line. That, okay, do you like the Indian nuclear deal? If the party says yes, you have to vote yes. If the party says no, you vote no. So if you go against that, that's another ground for defection. Then, if you join any political party after expiry of 6 months for nominated members. Now, in state legislatures, in the parliament also, you have some members who are nominated. Now, nominated members are allowed that up to 6 months from the date of their appointment, they can choose a political party, but not after 6 months. If they do it after 6 months, then it comes under defection. Then, joining any party after the election in case of an independent member. Okay. Now see, this is a simple conflict you'll understand. If there's a person who has contested the election as an independent member, then I voted for this person, he's now elected, he's in my legislature, but then he says, okay, now I want to go and join this political party. Okay. Maybe he says, I want to go and join BJP. But this is a problem for the voter. I did not want to vote for BJP. If I knew he was from BJP, I would not have voted against it. So because to make sure such conflicts don't arise, these provisions are there. So that is also a case of a defection. There are some exceptions that you can get the whole party, not the whole party, at least 2/3 of the legislatures to merge, and while merging that party, if it is 2/3 of the members who agree for merging, then that merging is allowed. Okay, but who will decide if this has happened or if this has not happened? That power is with the speaker. Now the problem with the speaker's position is the speaker is usually from the ruling party. Okay, so the speaker comes with a slight bias, okay, that he would like to favor the ruling party. That's what's happening here. So you have the Padi Kaushik Reddy versus the state of Telangana case which is going on, and Supreme Court had heard this case. The case was that the speaker should decide if they are going to be disqualified, the 10 MLAs, are they going to be disqualified or not? And the Supreme Court said that this was in July. Okay, I'm talking to you about events in July. So Supreme Court said that, okay, this happened in July. They said that within 3 months, please decide. You cannot wait indefinitely. Because one thing which the speaker can possibly or might be trying to do is that he will not decide. He's supposed to decide, but what if he does not decide? What if he takes a very long time to decide? That's where the problem is. Because sometimes they would like to, just leave it. Once the tenure will be over, the problem will automatically be solved. So they don't have to rule against their party, right? Now, this is what the Supreme Court is saying, that no, you cannot do that. The Supreme Court has said that there is no constitutional immunity. You are not protected against it. You are acting as a tribunal. Okay, so this is like a legal position for the speaker, that under the 10th schedule, you are the tribunal under the anti-defection law, and you are supposed to decide this. So the Supreme Court has said now that those, 3 month period is also over, which they had demarcated in July. So yesterday they specifically said that you please decide within 1 week, or we are going to hold you personally accountable for this. In fact, the judge very interestingly said, then the speaker can decide where he wants to spend his New Year's if he doesn't decide within 1 week. These are some existing provisions. See, law sometimes doesn't describe the whole thing, and there is scope for judicial interpretation of it, right? So those judicial precedents which are in place, they hold place that they can be, referred to for deciding how things are supposed to be done. So first is petitions for disqualification are decided by the speaker of respective houses. This is the role of the speaker. The speaker will decide. Then you have some cases which have been mentioned here. Supreme Court in Kyoto Holan versus Xylihu 1992 declared that the speaker acts as a tribunal and his decisions are subject to judicial review. Then Rajendra Singh Rana versus Swami Prasad Maurya 2007, the speaker cannot delay disqualification indefinitely. So this is the issue which is coming up in this case also. Then Kaisham Megachandra Singh versus Speaker Manipur 2020, and in this they mentioned that ideally it should be decided within 3 months, with of course some exceptions. So within a week it will be clear that what has happened, what has finally been decided. We'll come to our next point of discussion. So Supreme Court issued directions for tiger reserves protections. So we have tiger reserves in India, which have been, there's very elaborate set of rules for them. And now the Supreme Court has issued some new directions. Let's first learn about the tiger reserves. So they are legally protected areas under Project Tiger. So in 1973, there was this project which was started with the aim of long-term conservation of tigers. And you should know that from this time period to today, the program has done really well. We have seen an increase in tiger production in India, in the number of tigers in India. Okay. Now, tiger reserves, how they are demarcated is, so there is a core area. So usually, like if this is the area, the central area will be the core, and the outer area is the buffer zone. So core is where activity is very, very highly restricted. That's supposed to be maintained undisturbed by human activity. So this is the critical habitat where there will be no tourism, no commercial activity. The outer zone, it can have some kind of activity, of course, with restrictions. So that's the buffer area. So you have sustainable use of this zone. So there is regulated eco-development and limited tourism. With limitation, you can do some activities here. Now, who decides? There's a dedicated body here that is the National Tiger Control Authority. It is a statutory body under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. So this body decides which area will be tiger reserve, how much area should be there, what are the new rules. If it is maintained properly, all that regulation is done by this. And as of now, the total reserves are 58 tiger reserves across India. Now, what change has been brought up, or what new Supreme Court directions are there? They've kind of increased the restrictions. What's happening is there is human-animal conflict which is happening. See, if you have more activity in that buffer zone, if you have a very large scale coming up of tourism and other such activities, the problem which is going to be coming up is that human and animal interaction can happen. So that will lead to fatality, like those tigers can attack human beings, or human beings might, human vehicles might attack or harm those tigers. So to avoid that, these new set of rules have been brought up by the Supreme Court. So what they are saying is, so you have safari restrictions. So in different tiger areas, you'll have tiger safaris. So they are saying these tiger safaris will be permitted only in non-forest or degraded forest land in the buffer zone. So in buffer zone, and there also in areas which are non-forested, there where you have a less chance of a human-animal conflict, there you can have your tiger safaris. Then no night tourism at all. No kind of activities at night at any cost are going to be allowed. That's completely banned in the core and critical habitats. Then forbidden activity, some projects, some commercial activity as such, there's a blanket ban on it. So you have commercial mining, polluting industries, major hydro project, exotic species, so flying aircrafts in that area, firewood, cutting for firewood, all of that is not allowed. Then you have tiger conservation plans. So the state must prepare, revise within stipulated timelines, core and buffer areas to be notified within 6 months. Okay, so see, different states have different tiger reserves. So they are saying that whatever plans are in place, they should be properly decided. The core demarcations and all of that should be done in a fixed time period if they've already not been done. And another very significant point which has been done in terms of human wildlife conflicts or HWCs, that they are going to be called as natural disasters. They're going to be listed as natural disasters, and that will ensure rapid relief. Okay, so there are provisions that, okay, if a person dies, this is the kind of compensation which has to be given, this is how the area has to be assessed, all of that. So this is now going to be given a natural disaster status. So this is another direction which Supreme Court has given in the for the growing concern of human wildlife conflict in tiger reserves. Moving on to the next article. This is on India-Africa Forum Summit. So Africa and India relationships, they have also been in news. This particular news item is about a specific institution, a specific summit, which is the India-Africa Forum Summit. Now this has been there for quite some time. So it's started in 2008. So then you have 2011, 15. You can see very regularly it's happening every 3 years. And there was a focus on broader good development and cooperation between Africa and India. But now it's been 10 years since this has not happened. So this is the point of concern. It's been 10 years, this has not happened. And in this, in emphasizing that there's a need for this summit, we have a list of opportunities which we can explore in this India-Africa relationship. Things which are already in play. So first is African continental free trade area. So the whole of African continental is under this free trade area. That means it's acting as a single market. Now, if it is acting as a single market, this is a very beneficial situation. Anybody who wants to do business, like if India wants to do business, it kind of becomes streamlined. They don't have to individually engage with each country with their different set of rules. You have a single entity which can really be a very big boost for trade. Then you have India is Africa's third largest trading partner after EU and China. Okay, so we are already doing a lot of business. Like you have around $100 billion US dollars of trade which is happening. So this is a very big trade partner. We have a very important position in Africa. So we should be taking this opportunity and growing this further. Then Africa has been one of the world's fastest growing regions over the past decade. This is what is very attractive to most parts of the world, or all investors like EU and China also, that this is really growing very fast. In a lot of parts of the world where growth has become stagnant or even negative, this is a region which is one of the fastest growing regions, and of course, India should be there to get benefit of that. Then India also wants to exercise its soft power, right? Soft power or soft diplomacy through other kinds of engagements, like in terms of human resource training, interaction, technology development, technology transfer. India's expertise in different sectors can be shared here, like you have IITs which are engaging their education, healthcare systems. So that kind of linkage can happen. Then, representation in global institutions. India's leadership in global South-South cooperation, example, India's push for membership for African Union in G20. So see, India has this idea where it talks about global South-South cooperation. So the developed parts of the world, Europe and America, that's in the north, the global north of the world. So they have usually been deciding how interactions in the world will happen, how funding in the world will work. Now, this is a very big opportunity that the countries of the South, the global South, which parts of Asia, Africa, South America also for that matter, they're trying to interact amongst themselves, and through that cooperation, they are trying to, have their own development and development of the whole region as such, because these are the lesser developed countries of the world. So in that, India is taking this position that it is really trying to, boost African position so that that whole unit, that whole entity of global South, South-South cooperation, that can be promoted. So it's a very big opportunity with Africa here. African Union as such as an entity can engage there. But of course, this comes with its own set of challenges. First is competition from China's investments. So the other country which is investing a lot, that is China. And the way China invests, the China's investment plans is through giving a lot of loans. That means African countries are already in debt. So the kind of interaction they would want with India, that becomes complicated because a debt-ridden country would try to seek favors from China itself, if they're already getting money or if they're already in debt, or the economic benefit also, they might be kind of, China gets that leverage. So that creates a set of competition. Then you have delays due to scale. So you have large scale activities, so there are a lot of delays, like some infrastructure projects, let's say. There's of course bureaucratic drag, what can be done, what cannot be done, red tapeism is involved. Then political instability. The rise of military coups. I'm sure you've heard a lot of African countries. There are terrorist activities which are happening there. A lot of those countries are not letting even simple things like schools run. So in that sense, developmental activities are going to be compromised. Then you also have, maritime security issues. So maritime insecurity, there is piracy, like Somalia pirates, very infamous. Then you have maritime terrorism, which is also in place. So if you're trying to encourage some kind of collaboration, some kind of activity, this threat might be a very big disincentive. So if we work on this, these challenges, along with that, make sure we get the most of the opportunities. Now, our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, he has given these set of 10 guiding principles. They're called the Kampala principle, based on which India's engagement with Africa is going to be decided. Okay, so these kind of things, they become very relevant from, for quoting in different kinds of means answer, or in themselves, the doctrine, the idea can be a direct mains question also for UPSC. So let's see here. Intensify and deepen India's engagement with Africa. Okay, it's almost the same things which we've already talked about, but just the specific points, I really want to read them to you. Then greater market access, greater investment, enhance agricultural productivity. Agriculture is very important for India. even for Africa. So that can be a common point where engagement can happen. Then combating terrorism together, cooperation and promoting aspiration of African youth. This could be that soft power, education, healthcare, human resource building, technology development, create local capabilities and opportunities. So this is something which is very important for India's development model, that it tries to encourage whatever is needed in that country. Like the country can demand and design and drive its own development with their local capabilities. Then use of digital tools. India is in itself also developing and emphasizing a lot on digital development. Then address climate change, which is impacting everybody equally. Then free and open oceans for all. And you have the Indian Ocean, in between the common place. Then collaboration in establishing just, representative and democratic global order, which happens through global South-South cooperation. We come to our last article. National Mission for Clean Ganga. This approves research projects to strengthen scientific river management. The key idea here is projects for scientific river management. See, cleaning of rivers, management of rivers, it's a very important issue. Rivers are very vital for a lot of our activities. Now, the plan is that we must introduce scientifically designed projects for management, because the problem is very complex. You cannot just take one part and treat it. You have to look at it holistically. You have to look at it through scientific instruments. So let's talk about how this management is placed. So you need different kinds of institutions which are supposed to be in place. Like you have this National Ganga Council, then different states through which Ganga runs, they'll have their own committees. Then information system for having the database. So there is an idea that you need to have a proper geospatial database. So geospatial database means you need to know where the river is going, what is the riverbed. You can use space imaging for this. You can use historical data to understand, okay, how the course of the river was there, and all of that should give you a very comprehensive database. Then implementing appropriate water conservation and recharge measures. See, you have to have a situation where you anticipate what's going to happen in future, what's going to be the demand, and based on that, you make adequate plans. Okay, how conservation will happen, how recharge is going to be done. Then, different stakeholders should be involved. Like I mentioned earlier, it has to be a holistic plan. It has to be an integrated plan. So all kinds of stakeholders, maybe the direct stakeholders, primary, secondary, tertiary level also, whoever are there in that region connected to the river, they must be involved in this whole planning and management. And of course, you need to look at performance indicators. Every plan which needs to be successful, it will only be successful if you analyze what's happening. The performance indicators, that are very important. So here, establish monitoring network, analyzing water quality, pollution levels, mapping ecological hazards. All of these have to be managed, have to be assessed, so that you know if your management plan is working properly or not. The reason why it's in news is that this National Mission for Clean Ganga, the executive committee of this, has approved a scientific river management project with different key critical areas. The emphasis here on the scientific part. So you monitor key Himalayan head streams, glaciers from where the river is coming. Then you have digital twin development for the Ganga. Then high resolution sonar based riverbed surveys. So riverbed assessment is very important, because what happens is how the course of the river changes is because of silting, because of the deposition of the riverbeds. So they're going to use this sonar technology to identify or to look at those riverbeds. And creation of historic geospatial river database. Okay. This I told you earlier also. You look at a historic data, you compare it, you assess it, and you create the holistic geospatial understanding of the situation of the river Ganga. Now, this is a very important, a very well done table. Water and river basin management. So, what all tasks are there? It'll give you idea. I think it's also a very wonderful concept for explaining a presentation style. So, if you try to write main answers, maybe you can use this kind of an arrangement. This is a very classical pattern that you use headings, subheadings, and then you explain different points. So, it's talking about a water budget, okay, that you should know what's the regional demand, how use will be there. Then identification of factors and coordination of different factors. So it's not just, the natural factors that, okay, there's a river. Rivers use, man-made factors, anthropogenic activities, climate change, all of these things will impact. So you have to coordinate the whole thing while you think about management. Then identification of local and regional water resources. Okay, so what are the water resources in a particular region? What are the other options? Maybe there's a lake there or something like that. All of that has to be considered. Then determination of threshold limit. So whenever we talk about development, we talk about sustainable use. The use has to be sustainable. Now, that means you should know this is the limit. Beyond this, you cannot use, otherwise it will not be replenished. Otherwise, there is no scope of renewing the whole system. Identification of threats and developing their solution. This is what can use the scientific intervention. Then, of course, participation of all stakeholders so that the overall system, whatever is created, actually works. With this, we finish our main articles and we're going to look at the quick updates. Okay, the first one is liquefied petroleum gas. So we import a lot of this liquefied petroleum gas, and the reason it's in news is that USA is going to be our newest partner. There's been a deal which has been signed that they are going to meet, they're going to be sending LPG to us, and I'm sure you must have it in your households also. LPG is one of the commonly the biggest use of LPG, like around 90% is in households for household consumption. Composition, it contains 50 to 60% propane and 40 to 50% of butane. Okay, these are the two fuels which are there. And in terms of countries which normally import it, Qatar has the largest source, followed by UAE. So basically the Gulf countries, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. So your gas cylinders are having this LPG. Then precision biotherapeutics. Let's try and understand the word. Precision means to the point, very targeted, detailed, only what is required, that kind of a very precise indicator. Bio usually is a term where it is referring to living things, their components, their systems. And therapeutics means therapies, treatments of different ways. So here we are going to use some living systems, something from living systems for directed treatments. Let's see what this is. This is a targeted application of biological agents. So these agents could be protein, cells, gene therapies derived from living systems, tailored to an individual patient's genetic profile. So we all have different genetic profiles, different genetic material. Normally the therapeutic treatment which we are getting, like if you are eating a medicine, I'm eating the same medicine. But our genetic profiles are different. This is talking about using cells, using genes, using genetic material, using proteins to give a very targeted, a very precise treatment, which is going to be the precision biotherapeutics. It's going to be like a customized treatment, and such kind of a therapy will work very well because it is precise. It is exactly going to be treating the problem or whatever the issue is. Here you have another discussion on leopards. So leopards are in news for the same topic where we talked about tigers also, that there is this human wildlife conflict. So there is an increasing conflict with leopards, and because of this, for the first time, family planning measures, that means a way to stop the growth, the population of leopards, that's coming in for the very first time, that's got approval, and that's the reason it's been in news. Let's learn a little bit about the leopards. So they are found in India, Nepal, Bhutan, parts of Pakistan. So they don't live in deserts, they don't live in mangrove forests. But other than and that, they can be present fairly everywhere in these regions. Conservation status, whenever you learn about any animal, these are the three things which you must know. Please make this a standard. You can make your own list also. IUCN Red Data list. So here it says it's near threatened sites. It's an international convention on that. It's on Appendix 1. And Indian Wildlife Protection Act, it is on Schedule 1. Then further, we have the UN Cybercrime Treaty. So this is the first universal legally binding framework for collection, sharing, and use of electronic evidences for all serious offenses. So there is this discussion that India must ratify this, India must become a part of this UN Cybercrime Treaty because there is increased incidence of cybercrime in India, and such a convention where you have global data sharing is going to be very helpful. Like there's so many digital crimes and the digital scams which are there, digital arrests or online offenses, sometimes against children, sometimes against women, they're all very disturbing. And a lot of people are getting exposed to them. So being a part of such a treaty can help us, get the global best practices and learn and participate with all different countries which are a part of this treaty. Next is the 16th Finance Commission. So this is constituted by the president. So there's a dedicated article for this, Article 280, Part 1 of the Constitution. Under this, a finance commission is set up. The job of the finance commission is to look at how finances are distributed in the country, how center and state will share resources, how that whole tax planning has to be done. And recently why this is in news is because the 16th Finance Commission has submitted its report. Further, what is mentioned here is that you have Arvind Panagria, former vice chairman of Niti Aayog. He's the chairman, so he's recently submitted his reports to the president. Okay. Then you have Ajaya Warrior. So this here you have, this is the name of the India-UK joint military exercise. So there are different military exercises, you need to know their names. So this is a biennially held military exercise. So since 2011 it's been there between Indian Army and the British Army. Now in this what has happened is that it is recently going on. It's happening in India. It's happening in Rajasthan. So 2025 India-UK joint military exercise. This follows the protocol of UN. So there are a lot of ideas of UN which are being incorporated into conduction of this particular joint military exercise. Next is Earth System Science Council. Now this is a new council which has been set up. So you have the Ministry of Earth Sciences. What it has done is it has unified and streamlined governance across its autonomous institutions. So there are 5 autonomous institutions which were there, and you have that all being assembled into the Earth System Science Council. See, this Earth Science Ministry is dedicated towards, studying the Earth science. Basically, it's going to be targeting climate change and the changes which are overall happening on the Earth. So, integrating this into one council will help in doing or coordinating or cross exchange with whatever developments they are undergoing. Now, coming to the next quick fact. So, this is about Sentinel 6B. So, this has been launched. This is a satellite which has been launched from the Vandenberg Space Force Base on the Falcon 9 rocket. Okay, this is an initiative of NASA, and there are some other institutions which are involved. European Space Agency is also involved. It has a specific purpose for ocean tracking. So organizations which work on ocean tracking or oceans and the health of oceans, they are obviously going to be very interested in data like this. So this initiative has been taken for that. A lot of satellites which are going to be working, they are now being designed for specific purposes. That this will have a specific purpose for ocean tracking only. The next is on the initial public offering or IPO. I'm sure everybody's heard about IPOs. So what is an IPO is? This is the selling of securities of private companies. So basically, in simple words, the private company is going to make its shares available to the public, and when it is done for the first time, that is called an IPO. Now, the discussion on IPO is because of the fact that IPO has become a means for initial investors for getting their funds out, rather than for truly making the company a public limited initiative. So there is a discrepancy here, which the RBI is pointing out, which the chief economic advisor has pointed out, that there might be some hidden incentives here, some ideas where the investors are just doing this not to promote the growth of the company, but to get their own funds back. The last topic of the day, this is Leadership Group for Industry Transition. It's called LEAD IT. So basically, this is an industry leader roundtable conference, which has been launched by India and Sweden. Now, recently, our Minister of Environment has addressed this meeting. The meeting was in Brazil, and that's the reason this is in news. The significant point of setting up this whole initiative is that it wants to work towards climate action plan. There's this idea that we should have net zero emissions. We have to have a climate-friendly development, and for that, you have a number of initiatives which are running. This one is dedicated for industry players, and you have a very unique partnership in terms of India and Sweden here. With that, we complete our discussion for today, and beyond this, you all are going to you're going to solve the questions, go through the MCQs, solve the questions. That'll give you a sense of how much you've understood, how important these topics are for you. And if you want to learn about any topic further, you have the digital current affairs website of Vision IAS. Please go there. It'll be very helpful. It'll give you the details. It'll give you the concepts behind all these ideas. And your daily current affairs preparation can be completed with that. On that note, I wish you all the best. Thank you.